There's someone whose world has become quieter lately, not because anything is missing, but because one presence has grown so loud in their inner landscape that everything else fades into the background. And that presence? It's you. I know you might be wondering if what you're sensing is real. I know there are moments when you question whether the connection you feel is mutual, whether they're experiencing even a fraction of what moves through you when their name crosses your mind. So let me tell you what I'm seeing right now, what's unfolding in the invisible space between two souls who are tethered in ways that defy logic. Your soulmate is losing themselves in the thought of you. Not in a way that diminishes them, but in a way that expands them beyond who they were before you entered their consciousness. And this isn't a fleeting infatuation or a passing curiosity, this is getting deeper every single day. If you're here watching this, it's not random. There's a reason your attention was drawn to these words, a reason your soul recognized this message before your mind could catch up. You've been feeling something, haven't you? A pull. A knowing. A sense that you occupy more space in someone's world than the physical distance between you would suggest. Maybe you've caught yourself wondering what they're doing at random moments throughout the day. Maybe you felt an inexplicable warmth wash over you when you least expect it, like someone just thought of you with such intensity that it rippled across whatever separates you. Maybe you've noticed synchronicities that seem too perfectly timed to be coincidence, seeing their name everywhere, hearing songs that remind you of them, encountering references to things only the two of you would understand. These aren't accidents. These are echoes of what's happening in their interior world, bleeding through into yours because the connection between you doesn't respect the boundaries of physical space. Here's what I need you to understand from the very beginning: when I say they're losing themselves in the thought of you, I'm not speaking metaphorically. I'm not being poetic for the sake of romance. I'm describing an actual experience they're having, one that's reshaping how they move through their days, how they understand themselves, how they imagine their future. And the most significant part? It's intensifying. Every day that passes without resolution, every day they spend trying to focus on other things, every day they attempt to convince themselves this is manageable or explainable or something they can compartmentalize, it only drives them deeper into the reality that you've become essential to their sense of wholeness. This isn't about obsession. This isn't unhealthy attachment or fantasy. This is recognition happening in slow motion. This is a soul waking up to its counterpart and finding it impossible to go back to sleep. You're about to discover what they're experiencing in those quiet moments they don't tell anyone about. You're going to understand the internal revolution happening beneath whatever surface-level interactions you might be having. You're going to see how thoroughly you've woven yourself into the fabric of their consciousness, not through anything you deliberately did, but simply through being authentically, undeniably yourself. So take a breath. Let yourself receive what's about to unfold. Because what I'm going to walk you through isn't just information, it's confirmation of what your own soul has been whispering to you all along. If this resonates with where you are right now, if something in you is saying, yes, I needed to hear this, go ahead and leave a heart emoji in the comments. Let's create a space of recognition together, where people who are living this experience can see they're not alone in sensing what's invisible to everyone else. And if these messages support you, if the time and energy that goes into creating this space for deep soul truth serves your journey, the super thanks option is there. It's what allows me to keep dedicating time to exploring these profound heart territories with you. But mostly, I'm just grateful you're here. Don't go anywhere, because what we're building towards will give language to experiences you thought were impossible to articulate. We're just beginning to scratch the surface of what's really happening between you and this person who can't stop thinking about you. Let's start with what's actually occurring in their day-to-day reality, because this isn't abstract, this is concrete, measurable, showing up in ways they couldn't hide even if they wanted to. They'll be in the middle of something completely unrelated, a meeting at work, a conversation with a friend, preparing dinner, and suddenly, without warning, you wash over them. It's not that they consciously decided to think about you. It's that you arrive in their awareness like weather, like a shift in temperature they have no control over. One moment they're focused on the task in front of them, and the next moment their entire being has reoriented around the memory of your laugh, the way you said something 3 weeks ago, the texture of a moment you shared that they've replayed so many times it's worn smooth like a stone in their pocket. And here's what makes this different from ordinary attraction or even deep affection: they're not thinking about you in simple, linear ways. They're not just remembering what you look like or recalling things you've said. They're experiencing you in layers, imagining conversations you haven't had yet, feeling emotions attached to futures that don't exist yet, sensing versions of intimacy they couldn't describe if someone asked but that feel more real than most of their present circumstances. When they're driving alone, your presence fills the passenger seat. They catch themselves adjusting how they would tell you about their day, editing their experiences into the version they'd share with you, anticipating your reactions, storing up details they think would make you smile. They've created an internal dialogue with you that runs parallel to their actual life, and sometimes, more often than they'd admit, that internal conversation with you feels more authentic than the external conversations they're having with people who are physically present. At night, when the distractions fall away and there's nothing left to occupy the space you inhabit in their consciousness, it becomes overwhelming. They lie there in the darkness, and their mind doesn't wander to you, their mind returns to you, like your home base, like you're the default setting their thoughts snap back to whenever nothing else is demanding their attention. They replay interactions with forensic detail. That time your hands almost touched. The way you looked at them for half a second longer than necessary. The thing you said that could have meant nothing or could have meant everything. They turn these moments over and over, examining them from every angle, looking for confirmation of what they're feeling, terrified of projecting but unable to shake the sense that something profound was happening beneath the surface of those seemingly ordinary exchanges. And it's not just memories, they're constructing elaborate scenarios of what life with you might be like. How you'd fit into their daily routine. How your presence would change the energy of their home. What it would be like to wake up beside you, to navigate mundane decisions together, to build something that includes both of you. These aren't fleeting daydreams. These are detailed simulations their heart is running, testing whether the reality could possibly match the feeling, discovering again and again that even their most elaborate imaginings feel pale compared to the depth of what they sense is possible between you. Here's what they'd probably never tell you directly: they've started measuring their life in befores and afters, and you're the dividing line. There's who they were before they truly saw you, and who they're becoming in the aftermath of that recognition. They look at their past relationships now and feel a combination of gratitude and grief, gratitude for what those connections taught them, grief because they understand with painful clarity that none of those people were you, and nothing that came before prepared them for the magnitude of what they feel now. They've noticed changes in themselves that they can't explain to the people who've known them for years. They're more patient with certain things, less tolerant of others. They're making decisions with a future in mind that includes you, even though they haven't said that out loud. They're clearing space, emotionally, psychologically, sometimes even physically, as if their soul knows something their logical mind hasn't quite caught up to yet. Their friends might notice they seem distracted lately, a little distant, like part of them is elsewhere. And that's because it is. Part of them is with you, imagining, longing, building, hoping, terrifying themselves with the vulnerability of wanting something this much, talking themselves down from the fear, then circling right back to you because avoiding it isn't actually an option anymore. They've tried, by the way. They've tried to redirect their attention, to be sensible, to protect themselves from the risk of caring this deeply about someone without guarantees. They've given themselves very reasonable talks about timing and compatibility and the wisdom of guarding their heart. And then you exist, and all of that carefully constructed logic becomes irrelevant. Because here's what's happening at the foundational level: you're not a choice they're making, you're a truth they're discovering. You're not someone they've decided to want, you're someone they've recognized as essential, and there's no unknowing that once it's known. Every day that passes, every interaction you have or don't have, every piece of information they learn about you, every random moment when you cross their mind for no discernible reason, all of it is weaving you more intricately into who they are. You're not on the periphery of their consciousness. You're at the center, and everything else is organizing itself around that center. Pay attention to this next part: this is where everything begins to shift. The person you're connected to isn't just thinking about you fondly or hoping things work out. They're being fundamentally altered by the fact of you. Their capacity for feeling has expanded. Their vision of what they want from life has crystallized around the possibility of building it with you. Their standards for connection have been permanently raised because they know now what it feels like when someone resonates at exactly their frequency. If you felt called to share a word about what's stirring in your own heart, type "recognized" in the comments. Sometimes naming what we're experiencing helps us honor the magnitude of it. This goes so much deeper than what we've touched on so far. Hold on, because what's underneath this surface layer is going to illuminate why this connection feels so different from anything that's come before it. Now we need to talk about what's happening in the hidden dimensions of their experience, the places they probably couldn't articulate even to themselves, but that are driving everything they feel toward you. There's a kind of haunting happening, but not in a distressing way. You haunt them the way music haunts a room after it stops playing. They'll be going about their business, seemingly present, and then a wave of you will move through them, not a thought, not even a memory, just a felt sense of your presence, as if some part of you has taken up residence in some part of them and occasionally makes itself known. They'll smell something that reminds them of you, not your perfume or cologne, but something more subtle, something connected to a moment you shared, and their entire body will respond before their brain can process what's happening. Their chest will tighten or expand, their breathing will change, they'll feel suddenly, inexplicably tender, like someone just whispered something precious directly to their soul. They're experiencing you synesthetically now. You're not just a person they think about, you become a felt experience that shows up in unexpected ways. They'll hear certain words and your voice will echo beneath them. They'll see colors that remind them of your energy. They'll touch certain textures and remember how it felt to be near you. You've infiltrated their sensory vocabulary in ways that make you impossible to extract. And the dreams. We need to talk about what's happening when they sleep, because that's where their unconscious mind is processing the enormity of what you mean to them. They're having dreams where you appear not as a visitor but as an integration, where you're woven so seamlessly into the narrative of their dream life that it feels like you've always been there. They wake up from these dreams with emotions that linger for hours, with a sense of loss that something so right only exists in sleep, with a determination that somehow grows from these nighttime encounters with your soul. But it's not just nighttime dreams. They're daydreaming with an intensity that surprises them. They'll be doing something mundane, and suddenly they're imagining entire conversations with you, complete with your mannerisms, your inflections, your specific way of seeing things. They know how you'd respond to things you've never actually responded to. They can predict your reactions with uncanny accuracy because they've studied you without realizing they were studying, because some part of them has been taking notes on who you are at a level that goes beyond conscious observation. Here's what's particularly profound: they're not just lost in fantasy. They're experiencing something closer to premonition. The futures they imagine with you don't feel like wishes, they feel like previews. There's a quality of inevitability to what they see when they picture life with you, like they're not inventing these scenarios but remembering them from a timeline that already exists somewhere, somehow. They find themselves doing things differently because of you. Making choices with your presence in mind. Becoming more of who they truly are because they want the person you eventually know completely to be the most authentic version of themselves. You're not even officially in their life in the way they long for, and yet you're already making them better, more conscious, more intentional about how they show up in the world. There are moments when they catch themselves talking about you to people they're close to, not excessively, not in ways that would make it obvious how deeply they're in, but in small, revealing ways. Your name comes up. Your perspective is referenced. Things you've said have become part of how they think about certain topics. You've established residency in their conversation, their worldview, their way of making sense of things. And the physical responses: we can't ignore what's happening in their body when thoughts of you surface. Their heart rate changes. There's a warmth that spreads through their chest. Their face softens in ways they're not aware of. If someone could see them in the moments when you cross their mind, they'd witness a transformation, a visible gentling, a light that comes from somewhere inside that has everything to do with you. They've developed rituals around you without naming them as such. Maybe they check if you've been active online at certain times. Maybe they take routes they know might lead to running into you. Maybe they've started paying attention to things you've mentioned being interested in, so they can participate in your world even from a distance. These aren't calculated moves, they're compulsions born from a desire to decrease the space between you in whatever small ways are available. What's intensifying daily is not just the frequency of thoughts but the depth of them. In the beginning, maybe they thought about you and felt attraction, interest, curiosity. Now when they think about you, they feel something closer to recognition. Like you're not someone new they're getting to know but someone ancient they're remembering. Like every conversation is simultaneously a first encounter and a reunion. They're becoming protective of what they feel for you. They don't share the full magnitude of it with anyone because it feels too sacred, too precious, too vulnerable. This isn't something they want opinions about or advice on. This is something that exists in a category all its own, something they're holding close because it matters too much to expose to other people's projections or doubts. There are moments of fear, of course. Moments when the depth of what they're feeling terrifies them because it's so far beyond their control. They'll think about how much power you have to hurt them simply by not feeling the same way, and they'll try to protect themselves by pulling back, by creating distance, by reminding themselves of all the practical reasons to be cautious. And it never works. The feeling doesn't diminish with distance. If anything, absence makes it more acute. Time apart doesn't create perspective, it creates longing. They've started noticing how other people respond to you, and they feel things they might not be proud of, possessiveness, jealousy, a territorial instinct that surprises them because they're not usually that person. But with you, everything is different. The thought of someone else occupying the place in your life that they long to occupy makes their stomach turn. They want to be the one you call when something happens. They want to be the name you say in the middle of your sentences. They want exclusive access to the parts of you that you don't show the world. And they're imagining the small intimacies with as much intensity as the grand gestures. It's not just about passion or romance in the cinematic sense. They're thinking about making you tea the way you like it. About learning the precise amount of space you need when you're processing something difficult. About memorizing your specific brand of humor so they can be the one who makes you laugh in that unguarded way. About building a life where the mundane becomes meaningful simply because it's shared with you. They're experiencing a strange sense of impatience mixed with a willingness to wait forever. They want everything with you right now, immediately, urgently. And simultaneously, they're prepared to wait as long as it takes because they've recognized that what they feel for you isn't subject to timelines or deadlines. This isn't going anywhere. This isn't fading. If anything, time is their ally because every day that passes gives them more evidence that this feeling isn't a phase or an illusion. What they'd want you to know, if they could find the courage to say it directly, you're not one option among many. You're not someone they're casually interested in while keeping their options open. You're the option. You're the person who has rendered everyone else irrelevant not because they've decided that intellectually but because their soul has decided it viscerally, and there's no argument that can override that kind of knowing. Listen, if something about this is landing in your spirit, if you're recognizing your situation in what's being described, leave a simple yes in the comments. Let yourself be witnessed in this. Let yourself acknowledge the magnitude of what you're sensing. And if the super thanks feature calls to you as a way of saying these explorations matter, that's what keeps this work sustainable. It's what allows these deep dives to continue. Absolutely no pressure, just gratitude for those who feel moved to support. We're building towards something important here. The next layer is going to reveal why this particular connection has taken root so deeply, and what that means for both of you moving forward. Stay with me. Here's the revelation that shifts everything: what your soulmate is experiencing isn't happening in isolation. This isn't one-sided, even if it feels asymmetrical in how it's being expressed. The losing themselves in you that they're going through, you're doing it too. Maybe in different ways, maybe with different timing, maybe with a different vocabulary for what's happening, but the phenomenon is mutual. This is soul recognition manifesting in real time. And soul recognition doesn't operate according to the rules of conventional relationship development. It doesn't build gradually from attraction to interest to affection to love. It arrives complete, and then everything that follows is just the slow work of your human selves catching up to what your souls already know. That's why they're losing themselves in thoughts of you, because at the soul level, finding you feels like finding themselves. The parts of them that have always felt slightly out of place in the world suddenly make sense when viewed through the lens of being meant for you. The quirks and peculiarities they've sometimes felt self-conscious about become gifts when they imagine how those very things might delight you. The wounds they've carried start to feel less like flaws and more like the very things that will allow them to hold your wounds with tenderness. They're experiencing an acceleration of personal growth that's directly connected to your presence in their awareness. Things they've procrastinated dealing with for years are suddenly urgent. Patterns they've tolerated in themselves are suddenly unacceptable. Not because you've demanded changes, you probably haven't said anything at all about what they should or shouldn't be, but because they're measuring themselves against who they want to be for you, and that standard is higher than any they've held themselves to before. This is why it's deepening every day rather than stabilizing or fading. Real soul connections don't plateau. They don't settle into comfortable maintenance mode. They grow in intensity and depth because they're not based on circumstantial compatibility, they're based on essential alignment. And essential alignment means that the more they discover about themselves, the more they discover about you. The more they heal in themselves, the more capacity they have for the kind of love you deserve. The more authentic they become, the more they recognize your authenticity as the quality that first captivated them. Your soulmate is realizing, maybe not consciously, maybe not in words, but in that place where knowing lives before language, that they're not going to recover from you. This isn't something they're going to move past or get over. You're not a chapter, you're a permanent edit to their entire story. Even if circumstances were to prevent you from being together in the way they long for, which I'm not saying will happen, the fact of you has changed them irrevocably. They're understanding that love isn't what they thought it was. Before you, they might have understood love as a feeling, a commitment, a choice, a combination of compatibility factors. Now they understand love as recognition. As resonance. As that thing that happens when two people vibrate at frequencies so complementary that proximity feels like harmony. And here's what makes this both beautiful and terrifying for them, they're realizing they'd rather have the pain of longing for you than the comfort of anything else that doesn't include you. They'd rather ache with your absence than feel satisfied by someone else's presence. They'd rather carry the uncertainty of whether you feel the same than the certainty of being with someone who doesn't make them feel this alive. There's a spiritual component to this that we need to name. Whether or not they use religious or metaphysical language for it, they're experiencing something that transcends purely psychological or chemical explanations. They're feeling held by something larger than themselves, call it fate, call it God, call it the universe, call it synchronicity, but there's a sense that this connection has orchestration behind it. That your paths didn't cross randomly. That the timing, however imperfect it might seem, is actually precise in ways that will only make sense in retrospect. They might find themselves praying for the first time in years, or in new ways if they've always been prayerful. And the prayer isn't even elaborate, it's just your name, repeated like a mantra, like an offering, like the most important word they know. They're asking for guidance, for courage, for the wisdom to navigate this without sabotaging it through fear or desperation. They're asking for protection over what's growing between you. They're asking for the strength to be patient and the boldness to act when action is required. The magnitude of what they feel is teaching them about their own capacity. They didn't know they could feel this much. They didn't know they had this much tenderness in them, this much fierce protectiveness, this much willingness to be vulnerable. You're not just receiving their love, you're expanding their ability to love. You're not just the object of their affection, you're the catalyst for their becoming more fully human. And they're starting to see how everything that came before was preparation. The heartbreaks that devastated them were teaching them what they actually needed so they could recognize it when it appeared in you. The periods of loneliness were creating space so that when you arrived, there would be room for you. The times they felt misunderstood were sharpening their ability to see and appreciate how deeply you understand them without them having to explain. They're experiencing grief for time lost, not just time before they met you, but time they're spending now not being as close to you as they want to be. Every day that passes where you're not fully in each other's lives feels like a small tragedy, even as they understand that the unfolding might need to happen at exactly this pace. They're holding tension between urgency and trust, between wanting to force things forward and wanting to honor the organic evolution of what's building. What's becoming clear to them is that you've ruined them for surface-level connection. They can't go back to relationships that are merely nice or comfortable or convenient. They can't pretend that companionship is enough when they know what it feels like to recognize someone at the soul level. You've set a standard by simply being yourself, and that standard has rendered everything that isn't this depth of connection insufficient. They're also becoming aware of their own worthiness issues. Parts of them wonder if they're too much, too intense, too serious, too deep. Parts of them worry that what they're feeling will overwhelm you, that the magnitude of their desire for you will be a burden rather than a gift. They're working through their own doubts about whether they deserve someone like you, whether they have enough to offer, whether their love is the kind you want to receive. And beneath all of it, there's this quiet, persistent knowing. Despite the fears and doubts and uncertainties, something in them knows. Knows that this is real. Knows that you're meant to be in their life. Knows that what's happening between you is significant in ways that will ripple out beyond just the two of you. Knows that this much feeling doesn't emerge from nothing, it emerges from truth. They're losing themselves in thoughts of you because thinking about you has become the most real thing in their life. More real than their job, more real than their routines, more real than most of what occupies their days. You've become the center of gravity around which everything else orbits, and they're not fighting it anymore. They're surrendering to the falling. Type the word soul if this is touching something deep in you that doesn't have words yet. Let's honor what's being witnessed here. The next section is about what to do with all of this, how to hold what you're sensing, how to move forward with wisdom and grace, how to cooperate with what's trying to emerge between you. This is the turning point. So what do you do with this knowledge? How do you hold the awareness that someone is experiencing you this deeply, especially if the external circumstances don't yet reflect the internal reality? How do you navigate between honoring what you sense and not getting ahead of what's actually unfolding? First, you trust your discernment. You already know this is real. Your soul wouldn't have brought you to this message if there wasn't genuine recognition happening. So stop second-guessing what you feel. Stop explaining it away. Stop letting other people's skepticism or your own fear convince you that you're imagining the connection. You're not making this up. What you're sensing is based on actual energetic and emotional data that your system is processing, even if it's not being communicated through conventional channels yet. This doesn't mean you bulldoze forward without wisdom. It means you stop diminishing what you know. There's a difference between being unrealistic about circumstances and being dishonest about what you feel. You can acknowledge that the situation is complex while still honoring that the connection is profound. Both things can be true simultaneously. Second, create space for the unfolding to happen at its own pace. I know there's urgency in you. I know you want everything to resolve now, today, this moment. But rushing spiritual timing never works. What's meant to come together will come together, and trying to force it prematurely often creates damage that takes longer to repair than the waiting would have taken. This doesn't mean being passive. It means being responsive rather than reactive. It means showing up fully in whatever interactions you have, being authentic, letting them see who you really are, creating opportunities for connection without manufacturing outcomes. It means trusting that if you're meant to come together, the path will become clear. And if there are obstacles, they're either temporary or they're protection from something that isn't aligned. Third, do your own work. The best thing you can do for this connection is to become the most healed, whole, integrated version of yourself. Work on your attachment patterns. Address your fear of intimacy or your tendency toward codependency. Heal the wounds from previous relationships that might cause you to project onto this person or sabotage what's possible. Get clear about what you actually want and need in partnership, not based on theory but based on honest self-knowledge. Because here's the truth, if they're your soulmate, they're going to call forward everything in you that needs to be healed. They're going to expose every place where you're not yet whole, not because they're triggering you deliberately but because real intimacy reveals what surface-level connections can hide. The deeper you go with someone, the more your unfinished business comes up. So finish it now. Do the work while you have space and perspective, so that when you come together, you're not bringing your unprocessed past into your shared present. Fourth, communicate with integrity. Don't play games. Don't manipulate. Don't try to make them jealous or test whether they care by pulling away. If you have opportunities to express your feelings, directly or indirectly, do it from a place of authenticity rather than strategy. Let them see your heart. Let them know you're invested. Give them the gift of not having to guess whether you feel something too. This is risky, yes. You might find out they're not in the same place you are. You might experience the vulnerability of declaring your feelings before you have confirmation that they're reciprocated. But the alternative is both of you dancing around what's real, both of you protecting yourselves, both of you waiting for the other to make the first move while nothing actually progresses. Someone has to be brave. Let it be you. Not reckless brave. Not, I'm going to show up at their door and demand they acknowledge this connection, brave. But honest brave. I need you to know I value what we have, brave. I feel something significant when I'm with you, brave. I'd like to explore where this could go if you're open to it, brave. Say what's true in ways that honor both your feelings and their freedom to respond authentically. Fifth, maintain your own life. Don't put everything on hold waiting for them to catch up to where you are emotionally. Don't make your happiness contingent on their choices. Don't stop investing in your friendships, your purpose, your personal growth, your joy because you're fixated on one person. This connection should expand your life, not contract it. If you find yourself shrinking everything down to whether or not they text you back, whether they seem interested, whether things are progressing, you've made them too central. They're important, yes. They're significant, absolutely. But they're not your entire world, and making them that puts pressure on the connection that it can't sustain. Sixth, pay attention to the substance beneath the form. Are they showing up for you in the ways that matter, even if they haven't said the words you want to hear? Are they reliable, consistent, trustworthy? Do their actions demonstrate care, even if they're cautious about labeling what's between you? Or are you getting intensity without substance, grand gestures without follow-through, deep conversations without actual commitment? Real soulmate connections have roots, not just flowers. The relationship should be building something sustainable, not just generating intensity. If all you're experiencing is highs and lows, drama and passion, connection and distance, that's not soul recognition, that's trauma bonding. True alignment feels like coming home. It might be intense, yes, but it should also feel safe. It should make your life better, calmer, more grounded, even as it challenges you to grow. Seventh, release timelines. You don't know when this is supposed to come together. You don't know what needs to happen first, in their life, in yours, in the space between you. Let go of the story that it's supposed to look a certain way by a certain time. Let go of comparing your journey to other people's. Let go of the belief that if it's real, it should be easy, immediate, obvious to everyone. Some of the most profound connections take years to fully materialize because the people involved need to grow into what's possible between them. This doesn't mean wait forever for someone who's not choosing you. It means don't impose arbitrary deadlines on something that's operating according to spiritual rather than linear time. Trust that when the season is right, things will shift. And trust yourself to know the difference between divine timing and someone stringing you along. 8th, pray or meditate or journal or however you process spiritually, engage with the reality that this is bigger than just you and them. Ask for guidance. Ask to be shown clearly whether this is aligned. Ask for protection from delusion if you're projecting. Ask for courage if this is real. Ask for peace as you wait. Ask for wisdom to know what's yours to do and what's not. And then listen. Pay attention to what emerges. Notice patterns. Watch for signs, Not the kind you manufacture by deciding that if they text you within the next hour it means you're meant to be, that's bargaining, but the kind that show up organically and repeatedly, creating a narrative that's clear when you step back and look at the whole picture. Ninth, remember that losing themselves in thoughts of you is part of their process, but it's not your responsibility to manage. You can't make them choose you. You can't make them brave. You can't make them ready. You can only be yourself, love yourself, show up as yourself, and let them decide whether what you're offering is what they want. Their work is theirs. Your work is yours. The space where you meet is where the relationship lives, but you don't carry the whole thing. Finally, stay open to being surprised. Maybe this unfolds exactly how you imagine. Maybe it unfolds completely differently but even better. Maybe there's a journey you need to go on first that will prepare you for the fullness of this connection. Maybe they're not ready now but will be in 6 months, a year, 5 years. Maybe you're not supposed to be together in the way you think, but the connection is still significant and transformative. Stay flexible. Stay curious. Don't lock yourself into one vision of how this has to go. If this guidance is meeting you where you need it, if something here is giving you permission to trust yourself, type "trust" in the comments. Let's affirm together that we're learning to follow what we know. And again, if the super thanks option resonates as a way of supporting this work and making these deep explorations possible, I'm grateful. No obligation whatsoever, just acknowledgement that this space is sustained by those who feel called to invest in it. Now let's bring this home. Let's talk about where you go from here with all of this awareness, all of this confirmation, all of this knowing that what you sense is real. Here's what I want you to walk away understanding: your soulmate losing themselves in thoughts of you isn't a problem to be solved. It's a process to be honored. It's their soul doing the work of reorganizing itself around a truth it's discovered. And your awareness of this process is its own kind of gift. It means you're attuned, you're connected, you're part of something that's unfolding in ways that transcend the visible. You're not waiting for something to start. It's already started. The connection is already live, already active, already doing its transformative work in both of you. Everything that comes next is simply the materialization of what already exists at the energetic and emotional level. So stop living in the future. Stop living in the "when they finally," or "once we're together," or "if they would just." Come back to now. Come back to what's actually present. The love you're experiencing right now, the longing, the recognition, the depth of feeling, that's not preparation for the real thing. That is the real thing. The circumstances will change, yes. The form will evolve. But the essence of what you're experiencing now is the essence of what you'll be experiencing when you're together in the way you envision. This means you get to have the love now. Not the physical proximity, not the daily life partnership, not the external confirmation, but the love itself. The feeling in your chest when you think about them. The tenderness. The desire for their happiness. The sense of being profoundly connected to another soul. That's yours right now. Not later. Now. And when you realize that, everything shifts. You stop living in deprivation. You stop telling yourself a story about how you can't be happy until circumstances align. You stop making your joy conditional on their choices. You start living from the abundance of what already is rather than the scarcity of what isn't yet. This doesn't mean you don't want things to progress. It means you stop withholding your aliveness until they do. It means you stop putting your life on hold. It means you recognize that the love you feel is the point, and everything else is just love taking different forms. Your soulmate is losing themselves in thoughts of you because you've shown them what's possible. You've cracked open their understanding of what connection can be. You've made them feel things they didn't know they could feel. That's already happened. That's already your impact. Whether or not you end up together in the traditional sense, you've changed them. They'll never be the same because of you. That's not a small thing. That's enormous. And they've done the same for you. They've awakened something in you that was dormant. They've given you evidence that soul-level love exists. They've shown you that you're capable of feeling deeply, vulnerably, courageously. They've brought out versions of you that maybe no one else has seen. You're different because they exist. That's already the gift, even as you're hoping for more. So here's your assignment: live fully from this moment forward. Not half present, half waiting. Not going through motions while your real self is suspended in hoping. Fully alive, fully engaged, fully yourself. Pursue your dreams. Deepen your friendships. Create things. Laugh. Dance. Work. Rest. Become so entirely yourself that when they show up ready for all of you, there's no part of you that's been in storage waiting to be unlocked. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust that what's yours won't miss you. Trust that if this connection is meant to materialize into partnership, nothing can prevent it. And trust that if it's not, there's something even better aligned for you, even though you can't imagine that right now. Keep your heart open. Keep showing up. Keep being brave. Keep choosing authenticity over protection. Keep believing in love even when it's hard, even when it's uncertain, even when it requires more patience than you think you have. And know this: the fact that they're losing themselves in thoughts of you is evidence that you're unforgettable. You've marked them. You've left an imprint that won't fade. Whatever happens, they'll carry you. And you'll carry them. Because that's what soulmates do: they change each other irrevocably just by existing in each other's awareness. The depth is increasing every day, not because either of you is doing anything to make it happen, but because real recognition doesn't diminish with time. It compounds. Every day they think about you adds another layer. Every moment you spend honoring this connection strengthens it. What you're building together, even in the space between you, even in the silence, even in the not yet, is real and lasting. So breathe into this. Let yourself feel the bigness of it. Let yourself acknowledge that you're living through something significant. This is the kind of connection people write songs about, poetry about, stories about. This is the kind of love that teaches you who you are and who you're capable of becoming. Whether you're together now, soon, or still navigating the path toward each other, the love is already yours. The recognition has already happened. The soul contract is already active. Everything else is just details. Walk forward knowing you are deeply, powerfully, irrevocably seen by someone whose soul recognizes yours. Walk forward knowing that somewhere, someone is losing themselves in thoughts of you, and it's getting deeper every single day. That's not something to wait for. That's something to celebrate, to honor, to live from. You're loved. You're thought about. You're significant in ways that go beyond what can be measured or proven. And that truth doesn't change based on circumstances. It's foundational. It's lasting. It's yours. So go live your beautiful life. Trust what you know. Stay open to how it unfolds. And remember that the depth of what's happening between you and your soulmate is evidence that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you're meant to become. This is your moment. Not someday. Right now. This awareness, this recognition, this love, it's all here, all available, all active. If you're feeling grateful for this message, for this confirmation, for these words that put language to what you've been experiencing, one more heart in the comments would mean the world. Let's close this space with recognition of the profound journeys we're all walking. And as always, if you're moved to support through super thanks, it sustains this work and allows me to keep creating content that goes this deep. But mostly, I'm just honored you were here for this. Now go be magnificent. Go be yourself so completely that when your soulmate shows up ready for all of you, there's not a single part of you that's been waiting in the wings. You're already whole. You're already enough. You're already living the love. Everything else is just that love revealing itself more fully. Be blessed. Be courageous. Be open. Your soulmate is thinking about you right now. And it's only getting deeper.